You are listening to The Forest's Last Hope. Book 3 of 7 in the Iron Rule collection. Akumah Audiobooks. Chapter 5, Confronting the Abyss. The sun dipped below the forest canopy, casting long, eerie shadows across Pine Hollow. Though the immediate threat of Garen had been neutralized, a lingering sense of unease hung heavy in the air. The ancient evil, once unleashed, left its mark, a reminder of the darkness that could consume even the most idyllic of places. Sonu, Sarah, and the villagers worked tirelessly to cleanse the site of Garen's dark ritual, ensuring that the ancient power of the Heartwood remained untainted. But Talia knew that the battle was far from over. The seeds of darkness had been sown, and new threats could emerge from the shadows. As Talia walked towards the village, her mind raced. The raw power she had unleashed, the power of the Heartwood coursing through her veins, was both exhilarating and terrifying. She had barely understood the extent of her abilities, let alone how to control them. Yet, she was the guardian, the protector of the forest, and with that responsibility came a heavy burden. The Heartwood was not just a source of life, it was a wellspring of ancient magic, a prize coveted by those who sought power and control. Talia knew she must remain vigilant, forever guarding the forest from those who would seek to exploit its power. Talia found Sonu sharpening his sword near the village square, his face serious as he worked. He looked up as she approached, his expression softening. "How are you holding up?" he asked, sheathing his sword. Talia sighed, sitting beside him on the stone bench. "I'm trying. It still feels surreal, you know? One moment, I'm just a girl from Pine Hollow, and now I'm supposed to protect an ancient magic that I barely understand." Sonu nodded, his gaze distant. "I can't imagine what it's like for you. But you've proven yourself, Talia. You're stronger than you think." "Maybe," Talia replied, her voice low. "But it's not over, Sonu. I can feel it. The darkness isn't gone. Garen may be defeated, but something is still out there." Sonu looked at her sharply. "You're sensing something?" Talia nodded, biting her lip. "It's faint, but it's there. It feels like a shadow lurking in the back of my mind. I don't know what it is, but it feels like a warning." Sonu's face was etched with concern. "We must remain vigilant," he warned. "The darkness that Garen summoned may linger, and new threats could emerge." Just as Talia was about to respond, Sarah approached them, her staff glowing faintly in the twilight. "There's something you need to see," Sarah said, her voice tense. "It's about the altar." The trio made their way back to the clearing where the ancient stone altar had been located. The villagers who had been working to remove the remnants of Garen's dark magic had gathered around, murmuring in confusion and fear. Talia's heart sank as she saw what had drawn their attention. The altar, which they had believed to be neutralized, was glowing faintly with dark energy once again. "I don't understand," one of the villagers muttered. "We cleansed it. We did everything we were supposed to." Sonu knelt beside the altar, his brow furrowed as he examined the faint runes that had reappeared on its surface. "This shouldn't be possible," he muttered. "The magic we used should have completely broken the connection." Sarah stepped forward, her staff glowing brighter as she extended her hand toward the altar. She closed her eyes, her face tense with concentration as she tried to sense the magic within it. After a long moment, she opened her eyes, her expression troubled. "This isn't Garen's magic," Sarah said quietly. Talia's stomach dropped. "What do you mean?" Sarah met her gaze, her eyes filled with worry. "There's something deeper here. Something older. Garen was only using a fraction of the power this altar holds. Whatever this is, it's ancient, far older than we thought." Sonu stood, his face pale. "Then we've only scratched the surface." Talia's mind raced. If Garen had only tapped into a portion of the altar's power, then whatever lay beneath was far more dangerous than they had realized. And if the altar had begun to reactivate on its own, it meant that the true source of the darkness was still out there, waiting. "We need to leave this place," Sarah said, her voice urgent. "The magic here is unstable. If we're not careful, it could release something even worse than Garen." Talia took a step back, her heart pounding. The faint glow of the altar seemed to pulse, as if it were alive, as if it were calling to something, or someone. "We have to figure out how to stop this," Sonu said, his hand resting on the hilt of his sword. "We can't just leave it like this." Sarah shook her head. "I don't think we can stop it. Not without understanding what we're dealing with. The Heartwood's magic may not be enough this time." Talia's mind raced as she considered their options. If they couldn't stop the altar, then their only chance was to find out where the magic was coming from and how to sever the connection for good. But where would they even begin? As if sensing her thoughts, Sarah turned to her, her expression serious. "There's only one place we can find the answers we need. The Sacred Grove." Sonu frowned. "The Sacred Grove? I thought that place was just a myth." Sarah shook her head. "It's real. It's the source of the Heartwood's magic, the place where all life in the forest began. If there's any place that can help us understand the magic of this altar, it's the grove." Talia swallowed hard. She had heard the stories of the Sacred Grove, a mystical place hidden deep within the forest, where the magic of the Heartwood was said to be at its strongest. But no one had seen it in generations. It was a place of legend, shrouded in mystery. "How do we find it?" Talia asked. Sarah hesitated. "The way to the grove is dangerous. The forest itself will test us, and only those who are truly connected to the Heartwood can reach it." Talia's heart pounded in her chest. This was it, the next step in her journey. The forest had already tested her once, but now, it seemed, she would have to prove herself again. "We don't have a choice," Talia said, her voice steady. "We have to go. If the Sacred Grove is the only place that can help us, then that's where we need to be." Sonu nodded, his expression resolute. "Then we leave at first light." The night was silent, the only sound was the gentle rustling of leaves. Talia stood at the edge of the village, a weight settling on her shoulders. Defeating Garen was a victory, but it was merely a battle won in a larger war. The darkness that Garen had summoned was more pervasive than they had imagined. The path to the Sacred Grove was fraught with danger, a perilous journey into the unknown. Yet, Talia was determined. The Heartwood had chosen her, and she would fulfill her destiny. The forest's magic flowed through her veins, a constant reminder of her connection to the ancient power. As she gazed into the darkness, a sense of resolve grew within her. With Sonu and Sarah by her side, she would face whatever challenges lay ahead. The journey would be arduous, but she was ready to embrace the unknown. The fate of the forest, and perhaps the world, rested in her hands. Akumah Audiobooks. You have reached to the end of the chapter. Click next, and continue listening to The Forest's Last Hope. This story consists of 7 chapters, as such 7 videos. Consider subscribing for more epic tales by Akumah Audiobooks, and refer to channel playlist for better experience. Have a nice day.